We always say on this show, 2 minutes literally can change.
When Jourdan Blue walked onto the stage of America's Got Talent in 2025, the world saw a rising star chasing a dream. What they didn't see was the nightmare he had already lived through. The crowd cheered, judges wept, and confetti rained down as his voice soared through Breakeven by the script. But behind that golden moment was a truth the cameras never showed. A story of darkness, survival, and pain that almost ended before it began. In this video, we're revealing the untold side of Jourdan Blue and what America's Got Talent didn't want you to know. Born and raised in New Orleans, Jourdan grew up in a household of order and discipline. His mother was a police officer, his father a lawyer, two figures who represented control and authority in their purest forms.
The voice, your energy, you're a rock star. You know what? It was like I was hearing that song for the first time.
From the outside, it might have looked like a safe and structured home, the kind people would envy. But for Jourdan, it felt suffocating. There was no air for creativity, no space to stumble without judgment. He often joked, even to the judges on AGT, "My mom was a cop. My dad was a lawyer, so naturally I became a rebel." It earned laughs, but the truth behind it ran deeper. His rebellion was beyond just teenage defiance. It was the only language he knew to fight the feeling that he didn't belong anywhere. By the time he hit his teenage years, that rebellious streak was already eating away at him. He drifted further from his family, skipping school, falling in with the wrong people, making choices that tightened the chains instead of breaking them. At 16, he was expelled, adrift, already battling demons he barely understood. He started drinking, partying, chasing any escape from the heaviness pressing down on him. What nobody knew then was that he was also sliding closer to the edge of something far darker. At 18, the chaos culminated in a near-fatal overdose. For a terrifying moment, his life nearly ended before it had even begun. The headlines never covered it and the world never knew. But for Jourdan, it was the first wake-up call. The whisper that if he didn't change something, he wouldn't have much longer to change anything at all. And then came his saving grace. His grandfather John opened his home, not with judgment, but with quiet love. In that weathered house filled with vintage records and the crackle of old speakers, Jourdan began to hear music differently. His grandfather introduced him to blues, gospel, and soul, not as entertainment, but as lifelines and as therapy. These songs carried people through heartbreak, war, loss, despair, and slowly Jourdan began to see himself in them. He started singing in church, his voice rising through stained glass windows and over wooden pews.
And what am I supposed to say when I'm all choked up and you're okay? I'm falling to pieces.
A soft balm for his own pain. On stage in high school theater productions, he felt something he hadn't in years. Freedom. Freedom from expectation and from failure. Freedom to just exist in sound. Still, music seemed like a dream too fragile to chase. He got jobs to pay bills, worked long hours just to scrape by, but the call of music never left. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, when the world itself went silent. For Jourdan, that silence was both terrifying and liberating. He started writing songs, raw and unfiltered, posting them online without much expectation. To his surprise, people listened. They heard something in his voice, something vulnerable and true. His following grew not overnight but steadily because people believed him when he sang. In 2022, he auditioned for American Idol Season 20 through a Zoom call. Imagine it, pouring your soul into a laptop screen, no stage lights or crowd to feed you energy, just a webcam and a prayer. He didn't make it far and his audition never aired. For many, that would have been the end of the road. But for Jourdan, it was the spark he needed. For the first time, he allowed himself to believe that maybe music was more than just an escape. Maybe it was his purpose. So he leapt. He quit stability, packed up courage, and took his voice to Bourbon Street. If you've ever been there, you know the energy.
I've seen dreams come true right where you're standing. Lives change right where you're standing. And that stage and that moment can take you.
It's chaos and rhythm colliding. Tourists throwing beads, bars thundering with bass, neon lights reflecting off puddles in the street. Jourdan would stand there with nothing but a portable speaker, microphone, and the kind of hunger you can't fake. He sang until his throat burned and until the police told him to pack it up. He sang for diapers for his son Jack's, rent, gas money to make the hour-and-a-half drive from Baton Rouge, and for survival. He wasn't chasing fame, he was keeping his family alive. But Bourbon Street wasn't always safe. In January 2025, an attack shook the very block where Jourdan often performed. That night, by chance, he wasn't there. He was sick at home. But knowing that the place he poured his heart into could just as easily have been the place his life ended, changed everything. It made me realize that there's so much more to live for, he later told the judges, holding back tears. It was clarity. He wanted to sing for legacy. So when he auditioned for America's Got Talent in May 2025, it was about giving his son a future, about showing his grandfather that the gift he gave him, music as medicine, wasn't wasted. On that stage, he chose Breakeven by The Script, a song about heartbreak, holding on when everything falls apart. But in Jourdan's voice, it was about life itself. His voice trembled at first, then rose with power, with soul, and with the kind of emotion that can't be taught. The judges sat stunned. Sofia Vergara called him a rock star. Heidi Klum said he had made the song his own, and Simon Cowell praised his authenticity, the way the pain in his voice felt real because it was. And then came Howie Mandel. He saw the man behind it. With tears in his eyes, Howie slammed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti poured from the ceiling. Jourdan dropped to his knees, clutching a handful of it as though he could hold on to the moment forever. His grandfather watched via FaceTime as his grandson's life shifted in real time. And for once, Jourdan allowed himself to believe, maybe this was only the beginning. Yet what television didn't show was what came after. In the quarterfinals, Jourdan performed Biblical by Callum Scott, but he wasn't at his best. He was battling food poisoning so severe he could barely stand. Producers told him they'd use a pre-recorded rehearsal if he couldn't go on. But Jourdan refused. He walked onto that stage anyway, weak but determined. His performance wasn't perfect, but it was raw, real, and honest. Somehow it carried him through. He doesn't sing like someone who has always had a stage waiting for him. He sings like someone who's fought to stay alive long enough to stand on that stage. His voice carries the cracks of pain, the tremors of fear, but also the steady flame of resilience. People connect with him because he turns the scars into music. Before AGT, he had already built a modest following. Hundreds of thousands on TikTok, tens of thousands on Instagram. Fans tuned into his lives, captivated by his covers of songs like Take Me to Church or Dancing on My Own, and also by his honesty. He talked about mental health, loss, and survival. He admitted the nights he almost gave up. He confessed the weight of being a father still figuring himself out. He was a human being rather than a polished star, and maybe that's why the world leaned in. On Reddit, one fan wrote, "I've been watching his TikTok lives for the longest now. To see him up there doing this made me tear up." That's the impact of Jourdan Blue. He opens wounds and shows you how they heal. And through it all, his compass has remained steady. His family. Everything he does is for them. His girlfriend, his son Jax, and grandfather John. Fame is fleeting, fortune comes and goes, but family, the people who never left him, even when he was at his lowest, that's the music he's always been singing for. Jourdan dreams of starting a music festival dedicated to mental health awareness. He wants to use his platform for healing, community, and for hope, because he knows what it feels like to almost not make it, and he knows what it feels like to be saved by a single voice. So what does it mean when a man like Jourdan Blue sings? It means you're hearing every night he almost gave up, the bathroom stalls, Bourbon Street chaos, the overdose, grandfather's love, and the fragile thread of hope that somehow held. It means you're hearing life itself. His net worth might hover around $100,000, but that number doesn't touch the worth of a voice that can turn pain into redemption. And maybe that's the question his story leaves us with. What would the world look like if we all believed that our broken pieces could become music? What if every scar could sing? Jourdan Blue proves they can.